The world you live in tonight, the electricity flowing through your walls, the motors humming in your appliances, was largely imagined by one extraordinary man more than a century ago. Nikola Tesla could see complete machines in his mind, every gear and wire and circuit, as clearly as you see the room around you right now. He invented the system that powers civilization, the alternating current that lights your cities, and he did it through pure visualization before building a single prototype. And tonight, as you rest and let the day slip away, we are going to explore his remarkable inventions together. Tesla was not just an inventor, but a man who seemed to glimpse the future, seeing wireless communication, remote control, and renewable energy decades before they became real. He held over 300 patents across multiple countries, each one representing a solution to a problem the world did not yet know it had. His ideas were so advanced that some are only now being fully appreciated, technologies we are still learning to implement more than 100 years later. There is something almost magical about his story, a tale of genius, vision, and unfulfilled dreams that still resonates today. Welcome to the Drowsy Astronaut, where tonight we explore the inventions of Nikola Tesla, letting his remarkable legacy accompany you toward rest. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from tonight, what time it is for you, which state, which country. It is always a quiet pleasure to see how many corners of Earth gather here together. And if these videos help you relax and drift towards sleep, consider subscribing so you can return to these journeys whenever you need them. Now let us begin with the man himself, the inventor who changed everything about how we live. Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 in Smiljan, a small village in what is now Croatia, during a lightning storm that seemed to announce his arrival. According to family legend, the midwife declared the lightning a bad omen, but his mother replied that it meant he would be a child of light. Whether or not the story is literally true, it captures something essential about Tesla. His entire life was devoted to understanding and harnessing the power of electricity. He would become the master of lightning, creating artificial bolts in his laboratory that rivaled anything nature could produce. From his earliest years, Tesla displayed unusual mental abilities, a photographic memory, and an imagination so vivid it sometimes troubled him. He could visualize objects so completely that he sometimes confused imagination with reality, seeing things that existed only in his mind as clearly as physical objects. This ability, which he learned to control and direct, would become his greatest tool as an inventor. While other inventors built physical prototypes and tested them through trial and error, Tesla designed complete machines in his imagination, running them mentally until he found any flaws. He would later describe this process in his autobiography, explaining how he could visualize a device, operate it mentally for weeks, then check it for wear as if it had physically run. This was not daydreaming, but a precise mental engineering discipline, allowing him to perfect inventions before committing any resources to physical construction. When he finally built a machine, it would work on the first try because he had already tested it thousands of times in his imagination. No other inventor in history has described such a complete and reliable visualization ability, and it gave Tesla an enormous advantage in the race to invent the future. The world Tesla was born into was lit by candles and gas lamps, powered by horses and human muscle for most tasks requiring work. Electricity was a curiosity, studied in laboratories but not yet harnessed for practical use. a mysterious force that made sparks and shocked people but served no useful purpose. Within Tesla's lifetime, electricity would transform civilization entirely, and he would be responsible for more of that transformation than almost any other individual. The electric motors, power systems, and lighting that we take for granted all trace back to discoveries made in his brilliant and unusual mind. Tesla arrived in America in 1884 with 4 cents in his pocket and a letter of introduction to the famous Thomas Edison. He had traveled from Europe, where he had already begun developing his ideas about alternating current, the system that would eventually replace Edison's direct current throughout the world. The meeting between Tesla and Edison was a collision of 2 different approaches to invention. One methodical and empirical, the other visionary and theoretical. They would become rivals whose competition shaped the electrical industry, a battle of currents that determined how the world would be powered. Edison was already famous, the wizard of Menlo Park who had invented the phonograph and improved the light bulb, a tireless experimenter who tested thousands of options to find solutions. His approach was practical and incremental, trying option after option until something worked well enough to sell to the public. Tesla found this method inefficient and almost primitive, preferring to solve problems completely in his mind before touching physical materials. The 2 men respected each other initially, but could not bridge the gap between their philosophies, and their partnership lasted less than a year before Tesla struck out on his own. The story of Tesla is not just about inventions, but about a certain kind of genius, the ability to see connections that others miss, to imagine possibilities that seem like fantasy. He combined rigorous scientific understanding with almost artistic creativity, producing inventions that were both practical and beautiful in their elegance. The rotating magnetic field, the Tesla coil, wireless transmission, each represented a leap of imagination grounded in deep physical understanding. He did not just improve existing technologies, but created entirely new categories of invention, opening doors that the world did not know existed. Tonight we will explore these inventions one by one, gently and slowly, letting each one settle into your awareness as you relax. You do not need to remember technical details or master any concepts. Just let the story of Tesla's genius wash over you like a warm current. The electricity that powers your home, that lights your room, that hums in your walls, is his legacy, working quietly while you rest in its glow. There is something peaceful about that connection, knowing that the power around you was imagined by a remarkable mind long ago. The man who invented the future had struggles too, disappointments and failures, dreams that never came true, and recognition that arrived too late. His story is not just triumph, but also tragedy, not just genius, but also solitude. A life devoted to giving the world gifts that were not always appreciated. We will explore these dimensions too, because they are part of who Tesla was, a complete human being with flaws and frustrations alongside his brilliance. But always we return to the inventions, the legacy that hums and glows and powers our world tonight. As you settle deeper into rest, consider the electricity around you differently, not as something ordinary, but as a gift from an extraordinary mind. The night of July 9th, 1856, was torn by a fierce electrical storm, lightning splitting the sky above the village of Smiljan in the Austrian Empire. In a modest home beneath that crackling sky, Nikola Tesla was born. entering the world as nature itself put on a display of electrical power. His mother, Juka, was a remarkable woman in her own right, an inventor of household tools with an extraordinary memory, though she could not read. His father, Milutin, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, a man of words and faith, who hoped his son would follow him into the church rather than pursue worldly science. The young Nikola showed unusual abilities almost from the beginning, experiencing vivid flashes of light and visions that sometimes overwhelmed him. When he heard a word, he would sometimes see the object it represented, appearing before him as clearly as if it were physically present. These visions could be disturbing, coming without warning and obscuring his view of reality. But he gradually learned to control them and eventually to use them productively. What began as an affliction became a gift. The ability to visualize complete machines in perfect detail inside his mind. His memory was equally remarkable, bordering on what we would now call eidetic, able to recall entire books after reading them once. He could perform complex calculations in his head, solving integral calculus problems, without needing paper or pencil to work through the steps. Languages came easily to him, and he eventually mastered 8 of them fluently. Reading literature and scientific texts in their original languages. This formidable mental equipment would serve him well, allowing him to hold complete inventions in his mind while he perfected every detail. Tesla's childhood in Smiljan was marked by both wonder and tragedy. The curiosity that would drive his life emerging early alongside deep personal loss. His older brother Dane was considered the genius of the family, a brilliant young man expected to achieve great things. When Dane died in a horse-riding accident, the family was devastated, and young Nikola felt the pressure of living up to his brother's memory. Some biographers suggest this loss drove Tesla toward achievement, trying to prove himself worthy of the expectations that had surrounded Dane. The natural world around Smiljan fed Tesla's curiosity about how things worked, the streams and waterfalls that would later inspire his hydroelectric dreams. He watched water turn simple wheels and wondered about the power flowing through rivers, a force that could be harnessed if only one knew how. He built small water wheels and other devices, experimenting constantly, learning through direct experience how energy could be captured and directed. Even as a child, he was an inventor, seeing possibilities in the natural world that others overlooked. His father insisted on rigorous mental exercises, training young Nikola's already powerful mind, requiring him to recite long passages and perform mental arithmetic. These exercises, though sometimes tedious for the boy, further developed the mental discipline that would define his inventive process. Tesla later credited this training with helping him control his visualization ability, turning random visions into deliberate mental construction. The strict upbringing gave him tools, even if it also created tensions between his scientific interests and his father's religious expectations. When Tesla was about 17, he contracted cholera during an epidemic, an illness that brought him close to death over many months. Bedridden and weakening, he begged his father for permission to study engineering, rather than entering the priesthood as his father had planned. Milutin, desperate to give his son a reason to live, agreed, promising that if Nikola recovered, he could attend the finest technical school. Whether the promise actually saved his life, Tesla recovered slowly, and the path toward his engineering destiny was set. He studied at the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz, one of the best technical schools in Europe, throwing himself into electrical engineering with passionate intensity. He worked obsessively, sometimes starting at 3 in the morning and continuing until 11 at night, driving himself so hard that his professors worried about his health. During his second year, he encountered a Gram dynamo, a machine that could work as either motor or generator, depending on how it was connected. A professor demonstrated its operation, and Tesla immediately saw a problem. The sparking brushes and commutator that converted current seemed inefficient and crude. Tesla suggested that perhaps the machine could work without the commutator, a comment that his professor dismissed as impossible, contrary to the laws of physics. But the idea lodged in Tesla's mind like a splinter, the challenge of creating rotary motion from electricity without the need for brushes. For years afterward, the problem haunted him, appearing in his thoughts at odd moments, demanding a solution. He walked the streets of Budapest, where he worked after leaving school, always thinking about the rotating magnetic field that must be possible somehow. The solution came to him in February of 1882 during a walk in a city park, one of the most important moments in the history of electrical engineering. Tesla was walking with a friend, reciting poetry from Goethe's Faust, when suddenly the answer appeared complete in his mind. He saw the rotating magnetic field, understood how to create it with alternating currents, the complete design of a new kind of motor appearing as if handed to him whole. With a stick, he drew diagrams in the sand of the park path, explaining to his bewildered friend the invention that would change the world. The rotating magnetic field was the key insight that made the induction motor possible, the foundation for alternating current power systems that would defeat Edison's direct current. In that moment in the Budapest park, Tesla had solved a problem that had stumped engineers around the world for years. He did not just improve existing motors, but invented an entirely new principle, a breakthrough that would require years to bring to physical reality. The vision was complete in his mind, every detail of the motor already designed before he touched a single piece of metal. But having the vision was not enough. Tesla still needed resources to build it, the money and facilities to transform mental designs into physical machines. He worked in Budapest for a telephone company, then moved to Paris, working for one of Edison's European companies while refining his ideas. He tried to interest European investors in his alternating current system, but found little enthusiasm for a technology that competed with Edison's established direct current. The New World beckoned, America where Edison himself might see the value, or where other backers might fund the electrical revolution. In 1884, Tesla boarded a ship for New York, carrying little money but enormous dreams of electrifying the world. The journey was difficult. His ticket and luggage were stolen, and he arrived nearly penniless in the promised land of invention. But he carried something more valuable than money: the complete designs of the alternating current system stored safely in his remarkable mind. America would provide the stage for the battle of the currents that would determine how the world was powered. When Nikola Tesla arrived in New York in the summer of 1884, Thomas Edison was the most famous inventor in America, perhaps in the world. Edison had created the first practical incandescent light bulb and the phonograph, and he was building power stations to bring electric light to American cities. His system used direct current, electricity that flows in one direction only, a technology that worked well for small areas but had serious limitations. Tesla came with ideas that could overcome those limitations, but first he would have to work for the man whose system he would eventually defeat. Tesla arrived with a letter of introduction from Charles Batchelor, an Edison associate, recommending the young engineer in remarkable terms. The letter reportedly said that Batchelor knew two great men. One was Edison himself, and the other was the bearer of this letter. Whether the story is true or embellished by time, Tesla did begin working for Edison shortly after arriving in New York. He was put to work improving Edison's dynamos and motors, the direct current machines that powered the Edison system. The two inventors could hardly have been more different in temperament and method. Edison, the practical tinkerer, and Tesla, the theoretical visionary. Edison famously said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, testing thousands of options methodically until finding one that worked. Tesla found this approach almost painful in its inefficiency, preferring to solve problems completely in his mind before touching materials. Edison worked with teams of assistants in large laboratories, while Tesla's best work happened in the solitude of his own imagination. Tesla claimed that Edison once offered him $50,000 to improve the efficiency of Edison's direct current dynamos and motors. He worked for months, making significant improvements that saved the company money, then asked about the promised bonus he had been offered. Edison reportedly laughed and said Tesla did not understand American humor, that the offer had been a joke, not a serious promise. Whether this story is entirely accurate has been debated, but Tesla did leave Edison's employ after less than a year. After leaving Edison, Tesla went through a difficult period, forced to dig ditches for a living while his alternating current ideas went unbuilt. He formed a company with partners to develop arc lighting, but the partners squeezed him out and left him with nothing from his own work. For months he struggled in poverty, the greatest electrical engineer alive, reduced to manual labor while his revolutionary ideas remained trapped in his mind. It was a humiliating and painful time, but it would not last forever. In 1887, Tesla finally found backers who believed in his alternating current system, investors who provided the money to establish his own laboratory. Now he could build the motors and generators he had imagined for years, transforming the visions from the Budapest Park into physical machines. He filed a series of patents covering his polyphase alternating current system, the complete infrastructure for generating, transmitting, and using electrical power. These patents would become among the most valuable in history, the foundation of the electrical grid that powers civilization. The key advantage of alternating current over direct current was transformer compatibility, the ability to step voltage up or down easily using simple devices. Direct current could not be easily transformed, so it had to be generated at the voltage it was used, which meant low voltage for safety inside homes and businesses. But low voltage cannot travel far without losing energy to resistance in the wires. So Edison's power stations had to be built within a mile of their customers. This meant every neighborhood needed its own power station, an expensive and inefficient arrangement that limited electrification. Alternating current solved this problem elegantly with transformers, devices that could raise voltage for long-distance transmission, then lower it for safe use. High-voltage current loses much less energy over distance, so power stations could be built far from cities, wherever energy was available. A single plant at Niagara Falls could send power to Buffalo 20 miles away, something Edison's system could never achieve. This was the fundamental advantage that would eventually make AC the standard, the ability to transmit power efficiently over long distances. George Westinghouse, already a successful inventor and industrialist, recognized the potential of Tesla's system and approached him in 1888. Westinghouse had made his fortune with railroad air brakes, and now he wanted to challenge Edison in the electrical power business. He offered Tesla $60,000 for his patents plus royalties, a deal that would make Tesla wealthy if alternating current succeeded. Tesla accepted, and the battle of the currents began in earnest. Westinghouse's alternating current against Edison's established direct current empire. Edison fought back with a campaign that emphasized the dangers of alternating current, staging public electrocutions of animals to show that AC was deadly. He secretly supported the development of the electric chair using alternating current, hoping the association with execution would turn the public against Westinghouse's system. Edison's campaign was ruthless and sometimes dishonest, spreading fear rather than competing on technical merits. He even coined the term Westinghoused to mean electrocuted, trying to link his competitor's name with death. But the technical advantages of alternating current could not be denied, and slowly the tide began to turn in favor of Westinghouse and Tesla. Edison's direct current required copper cables so thick they were becoming unaffordable, while AC could use thinner wires thanks to higher transmission voltages. New alternating current installations were appearing across America and Europe, demonstrating that the technology was safe and effective when properly implemented. The efficiency gains were too significant for businesses and cities to ignore, and AC began winning the war through sheer economic superiority. The decisive moment came with the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, where Westinghouse won the contract to provide electrical power and lighting. Edison's General Electric had bid on the contract as well, but Westinghouse's alternating current system was more economical and won the competition. The fair would demonstrate AC power on a scale never before seen, proving to the world that Tesla's system was ready for widespread adoption. This was not just a business victory, it was a public demonstration that would shape the future of electricity. Tesla himself would play a starring role at the Chicago Fair, demonstrating his inventions and amazing audiences with displays of electrical wonder. But that story belongs to another part of our journey. For now, we rest with the knowledge that alternating current was winning. The system that powers your home tonight, the electricity flowing through your walls, was born in Tesla's imagination and proven in the battle of the currents. Edison eventually admitted that AC was superior for power transmission, though he never fully embraced the technology of his great rival. The electric motor is one of the most important inventions in human history, converting electrical energy into mechanical motion that can do physical work. Before Tesla's innovations, electric motors existed but were limited and inefficient, requiring complex mechanical systems that wore out quickly and wasted energy. Tesla's polyphase alternating current motor solved these problems elegantly, creating a design so effective that it remains the standard more than a century later. Tonight we explore this invention quietly, the technology that hums in countless machines around you as you rest. To understand Tesla's motor, we first need to understand the basic principle of electromagnetism, the connection between electricity and magnetism that underlies all electrical machines. When electric current flows through a wire, it creates a magnetic field around that wire. And when you coil the wire, the magnetic field becomes concentrated and stronger. This electromagnet can attract or repel permanent magnets or other electromagnets, creating the force that electric motors harness to produce rotation. The challenge is arranging these magnetic interactions to produce continuous, smooth motion, rather than jerky movements that start and stop. Early electric motors used direct current and required devices called commutators, mechanical switches that reversed the current direction many times per second. These commutators worked with brushes, contacts that rubbed against rotating parts, creating sparks and friction that wasted energy and caused wear. The brushes needed regular replacement, and the sparking limited efficiency, making DC motors expensive to maintain and operate. Tesla's great insight was that with alternating current, the commutator could be eliminated entirely, replacing mechanical switching with the natural alternation of the current itself. The key concept was the rotating magnetic field, the vision that came to Tesla in the Budapest Park, a magnetic field that rotates in space without any physical parts moving. By using multiple alternating currents that are out of phase with each other, Tesla could create electromagnets whose combined field rotates around a circle. A conductor placed in this rotating field would have currents induced in it, and these induced currents would interact with the field to produce rotation. The rotor would spin, chasing the rotating field, without any physical connection to the electrical supply. This is the induction motor, Tesla's most important invention for everyday life, the motor that powers nearly every appliance and machine you encounter. The rotor has no electrical connection to the outside world. It simply follows the rotating magnetic field through electromagnetic induction. There are no brushes to wear out, no commutator to spark and fail, just solid components that can run for decades without maintenance. The simplicity and reliability of this design revolutionized industry, making electric motors practical for thousands of applications. The polyphase system typically uses 3 alternating currents, each out of phase by 120 degrees, creating a smooth, rotating field that produces steady torque. 2-phase systems work as well, and Tesla's original patents covered both, along with the generators and transformers needed for a complete power system. The entire infrastructure of electrical power distribution was implicit in Tesla's patents, a complete vision of how electricity would be generated, transmitted, and used. No one before him had conceived such a comprehensive system, designed as a unified whole rather than assembled from separate inventions. When Westinghouse purchased Tesla's patents in 1888, he acquired not just a motor, but a complete technology for electrifying civilization. The patents covered generators that produced polyphase alternating current, transformers that changed voltage levels for transmission and distribution. They covered motors that converted electricity back to mechanical power, and the methods for synchronizing all these components into a working system. Tesla had imagined the entire electrical grid, complete in his mind before a single power station was built. The efficiency of Tesla's motor came from the elimination of sliding contacts and their associated losses. The energy that went into sparks and friction in earlier designs. An induction motor can convert more than 90% of electrical energy into mechanical work, an efficiency that makes electricity economical for industrial applications. Factories could replace steam engines with electric motors, each machine having its own motor rather than drawing power from central drive shafts. This flexibility transformed manufacturing, allowing factories to be designed around the work rather than around power transmission. Consider the machines around you, that contain electric motors, the refrigerator humming in your kitchen, the fans circulating air through your home. Your washing machine, your dishwasher, your vacuum cleaner, all contain motors based on Tesla's induction principle. Air conditioners, elevators, escalators, electric trains. The entire infrastructure of modern life depends on electric motors running constantly, and nearly all of them use the polyphase alternating current system, the technology that emerged from Tesla's imagination in 1882. Industrial motors based on Tesla's designs range from tiny to enormous, from small pumps in home appliances to massive motors driving factory equipment. Steel mills, oil refineries, water treatment plants, manufacturing facilities, all depend on induction motors to convert electricity into the mechanical work of production. Cranes lift cargo at ports, conveyors move materials through warehouses, and every motion traces back to the rotating magnetic field Tesla envisioned. The world of industry runs on his invention, the motor that needs no brushes, no commutator, no maintenance for years on end. The electric car revival of recent decades uses motors descended from Tesla's principles, both the company named after him and other manufacturers employing AC induction motors. The regenerative braking that extends electric vehicle range relies on the motor becoming a generator when the vehicle slows down. This reversibility was inherent in Tesla's design from the beginning, the motor and generator being different modes of the same fundamental machine. Electric vehicles are finally fulfilling a dream Tesla himself held, replacing combustion with the clean power of electricity. The near-silent operation of electric motors contributes to the peace of your environment tonight. No combustion or mechanical clatter, just the quiet hum of rotating fields. Compare this to the noise of gasoline engines or steam machinery, the explosion and mechanical violence that characterized power before electricity. Tesla's motor brought a new kind of peace to the world of work, machines that labored quietly while humans enjoyed relative silence. This is part of his gift to modern life: power without noise, motion without violence. The royalty agreement Tesla signed with Westinghouse would have made him one of the richest men in the world if Westinghouse had been able to pay what the contract specified. But the Battle of the Currents nearly bankrupted the Westinghouse company, fighting Edison's attacks while building infrastructure for the new system. Westinghouse approached Tesla and explained the situation, saying the company would fail if it had to pay full royalties on every motor sold. Tesla, who valued his invention's success over personal wealth, tore up the royalty contract, surrendering what would have been billions in today's money. This act of generosity, or perhaps impracticality, defined much of Tesla's life, caring more about seeing his inventions used than about accumulating personal wealth. He would struggle financially for most of his later years, while others made fortunes from technologies based on his patents. Whether this was nobility or naivety depends on your perspective, but it ensured that alternating current would survive to electrify the world. The motors humming around you tonight are part of that legacy, technology freed to spread by Tesla's willingness to sacrifice personal gain. Among all of Tesla's inventions, none captures the imagination quite like the Tesla coil, the device that produces spectacular displays of artificial lightning, electricity made visible. These coils create extremely high voltages at high frequencies, generating long sparks and glowing discharges that seem almost supernatural. Tesla built them not for spectacle, but for serious research into wireless transmission, though the beauty of their operation was not lost on him. Tonight, we explore these remarkable devices, the physics behind the dancing lightning that has fascinated people for over a century. A Tesla coil works on the principle of resonance, the same phenomenon that makes a wine glass sing, when you run a wet finger around its rim at just the right speed. Every oscillating system has a natural frequency at which it prefers to vibrate. And when energy is supplied at this frequency, the oscillations build up to large amplitudes. In a Tesla coil, the resonance occurs in electrical circuits, with energy building up to produce voltages of millions of volts. These extreme voltages can jump across gaps of many feet, creating the artificial lightning that makes Tesla coils so visually striking. The basic Tesla coil has two circuits, a primary and a secondary, loosely coupled together, with the secondary wound with many more turns of wire than the primary. The primary circuit includes a spark gap and a capacitor, components that create bursts of oscillating current at the resonant frequency. These oscillations induce much higher voltages in the secondary coil, building up to extremes that would be dangerous if not carefully controlled. The result is a fountain of electrical discharge, sparks and streamers reaching out into the air. Tesla built progressively larger coils as his research advanced, culminating in enormous devices that filled entire laboratory spaces. At his laboratory in Colorado Springs in 1899, he built coils that produced artificial lightning bolts more than 100 feet long. The discharges were so powerful they could be heard miles away, thunder from man-made lightning echoing across the Colorado plains. He claimed to have produced 12 million volts in these experiments, voltages that rivaled the most powerful natural lightning strikes. The purpose of these experiments was not merely to create impressive displays, but to explore the transmission of electrical energy without wires. Tesla believed that the Earth itself could serve as a conductor, carrying electrical energy from transmitters to receivers anywhere on the planet. The high-frequency, high-voltage outputs of his coils were designed to excite this global circuit, setting up resonant conditions that would allow wireless power distribution. Whether this dream was physically possible remains debated, but the experiments produced extraordinary phenomena. During his Colorado Springs experiments, Tesla observed strange phenomena that he interpreted as signals, regular patterns that seemed too organized to be natural electrical noise. He became convinced that he was receiving communications from Mars or other planets, intelligent signals reaching Earth through the electrical medium of space. Most scientists today believe he was detecting natural phenomena, perhaps radio waves from lightning, or cosmic sources he could not have known about. But the experience convinced Tesla of the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence, and he spoke publicly about receiving messages from space. The Tesla coil found practical applications that Tesla himself did not fully anticipate, becoming essential to the development of radio and television technology. The tuned circuits in early radio receivers were based on principles Tesla demonstrated. The resonant circuits that could select one frequency from the background noise. Medical devices use Tesla coils to produce high-frequency currents for therapy, treatments that were popular in the early 20th century, though of questionable value. The spectacular discharges also made Tesla coils popular for entertainment, appearing in movies and stage shows as symbols of mad science. Modern Tesla coils are built by enthusiasts around the world, hobbyists who create musical Tesla coils that produce sounds through their electrical discharges. By modulating the spark rate at audio frequencies, these devices can play music through lightning, the sparks themselves creating sound waves. Performances feature coils playing classical music or popular songs, the bolts of electricity dancing in rhythm to the melodies. Tesla would surely have been amazed and delighted to see his invention turned into a musical instrument of such strange beauty. The physics of Tesla coils reveals deep connections between electricity and magnetism, the interplay of electric fields and magnetic fields that defines electromagnetic phenomena. When current oscillates in the primary coil, it creates a changing magnetic field, which induces voltage in the secondary coil through electromagnetic induction. The secondary coil's many turns multiply this voltage dramatically, while the resonance allows energy to build up over many oscillation cycles. The result is voltage amplification far beyond what static transformers can achieve, reaching into the millions of volts that produce spectacular discharges. There is something almost alive about the discharges from a Tesla coil, the way they reach out and writhe as if searching for something to touch. This lifelike quality comes from the physics of electrical breakdown in air, the way ionization creates channels that shift and wander as conditions change. Each spark follows the path of least resistance, a path that changes moment by moment as the air heats and ionizes unevenly. The result is organic-looking streamers, purple and white filaments that dance like living creatures made of light. Tesla often worked alone in his laboratory, surrounded by these discharges, sitting calmly while artificial lightning crackled around him. He understood the physics well enough to know where to sit safely, avoiding the paths that the electricity preferred to follow. Photographs show him reading in his laboratory while coils operate nearby, apparently unconcerned by the millions of volts dancing through the air around him. This confidence came from his deep understanding, knowledge that transformed dangerous electricity into a controllable phenomenon. The glow of ionized air around Tesla coil discharges creates an ethereal atmosphere, a purple haze that filled Tesla's laboratories during his experiments. This plasma, as we now call it, is matter in a fourth state, beyond solid, liquid, and gas, a state that Tesla explored extensively, though the term had not yet been coined. His experiments with vacuum tubes and gas discharges laid groundwork for technologies from neon signs to plasma televisions. The glowing tubes he demonstrated at lectures presaged the fluorescent lighting that would eventually replace incandescent bulbs. As you rest tonight, perhaps there is electrical equipment humming somewhere nearby, transformers in your walls converting voltage, circuits resonating at their designed frequencies. These are the descendants of Tesla's coils, tamed and miniaturized but based on the same principles. The electricity flowing to your devices passes through transformers, where coils induce voltage in other coils, just as Tesla demonstrated. His dancing lightning has become the quiet hum of everyday power, the spectacular made ordinary through familiarity. The year 1893 was a turning point in the history of electricity, the moment when the future of power was decided in full public view. The World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago would celebrate 400 years since Columbus reached America, and would demonstrate to millions of visitors the wonders of electrical technology. Westinghouse and Tesla won the contract to illuminate the fair, defeating Edison's General Electric in a competition that would prove which system was superior. The fair would be lit by alternating current, and the world would see what electricity could do. The scale of the undertaking was unprecedented in electrical engineering, requiring power, generation, and distribution systems beyond anything previously attempted. Westinghouse installed 12,000 horsepower of generating capacity, massive alternating current dynamos designed to Tesla's specifications. The distribution system used transformers to deliver power throughout the fairgrounds, demonstrating the flexibility that gave AC its advantage over direct current. More than 200,000 incandescent bulbs would illuminate the fair, a display of light that would astound visitors accustomed to gas lamps and candles. On the evening of May 1st, 1893, President Grover Cleveland pressed a button, and the fair blazed into light as the crowd gasped in wonder. The White City, as the fair was called, glowed brilliantly against the night sky. Buildings outlined in thousands of lights that seemed almost magical. Visitors who had never seen electric light were overwhelmed, experiencing a glimpse of the future that seemed almost like a dream. One observer wrote that it was like seeing a city of the future, transported back in time to show the 19th century what was coming. Tesla himself appeared at the fair, demonstrating his inventions in the electricity building, drawing crowds who came to see the wizard behind the alternating current system. He presented spectacular displays of electrical phenomena, holding gas-filled tubes that glowed with no wires attached, lit by high-frequency fields. He demonstrated his motors and generators, explaining how they worked, making the technical accessible to ordinary visitors with clear explanations. The public saw that alternating current was not dangerous, as Edison claimed, but a safe and wonderful technology that would transform their lives. One of Tesla's most famous demonstrations involved passing high-frequency current through his own body, showing that such currents were harmless despite their high voltage. He would stand holding tubes that glowed brilliantly from the current passing through him, his body becoming part of the circuit without any apparent harm. This demonstrated that high-frequency currents behave differently from the low-frequency current in power lines, tending to flow along the surface of conductors rather than through their centers. The demonstration was theatrical but also educational, showing that electrical phenomena were more complex than simple danger. The fair's illumination went far beyond simple incandescent bulbs, including searchlights, decorative lighting, and experimental fluorescent tubes. Tesla demonstrated phosphorescent lighting, tubes coated with materials that glowed under electrical excitation, a technology that would eventually become the fluorescent lights we use today. These tubes were more efficient than incandescent bulbs, converting more electricity into light and less into waste heat. The technology was decades ahead of its time, waiting for manufacturing advances before becoming commercially practical. The fountains of the fair were illuminated with colored lights, creating displays of water and light that enchanted evening visitors. Searchlights swept the sky, visible for miles, announcing to Chicago and the surrounding region that something wonderful was happening. The entire fair became a demonstration of what electricity could do for cities, promising a future of clean light, replacing smoky gas and dangerous candles. Visitors left convinced that electricity was the coming thing, that Edison's warnings about alternating current had been exaggerated or simply wrong. The commercial impact of the fair was enormous for Westinghouse and for alternating current, demonstrating on a grand scale that the technology was ready for widespread adoption. Cities and businesses that had hesitated now moved forward with AC installations, convinced by the spectacular success of the Chicago Exposition. Edison's General Electric, which had insisted on direct current, began developing its own alternating current equipment to remain competitive. The war of the currents was effectively over, with Tesla's system emerging as the clear winner. For Tesla personally, the fair was a triumph, but also the beginning of new challenges. The need to find funding for increasingly ambitious projects. He had demonstrated what alternating current could do for power and lighting. Now, he wanted to explore wireless transmission of electricity without any wires at all. The fair had shown him what was possible with adequate resources, and he dreamed of facilities even grander for his wireless experiments. The search for backers would occupy much of his coming years, with mixed success that brought both achievements and disappointments. The lighting technologies Tesla demonstrated at the fair would develop slowly over decades, fluorescent and neon lighting not becoming common until the mid-20th century. But the seeds were planted in 1893. The principles demonstrated that would eventually transform how we light our spaces. Today, fluorescent and LED lighting are replacing incandescent bulbs, fulfilling the promise of efficiency that Tesla showed more than a century ago. The glow of your light fixtures tonight connects back to those demonstrations at the World's Columbian Exposition. The fair also demonstrated electric power for transportation, with an elevated electric railway carrying visitors around the grounds in comfort. This showed that electricity could replace steam for trains and streetcars, beginning a transition that would accelerate in the 20th century. Electric streetcars would transform urban transportation in the coming decades, and eventually, electric trains would carry passengers at hundreds of miles per hour. The fair was a window into the electrical future, a preview of the world that Tesla had imagined and was helping to create. More than 27 million people visited the fair during its 6-month run, many experiencing electric light for the first time in their lives. They returned home with stories of the White City and its wonders, spreading awareness of electricity and its possibilities across America and the world. The fair changed public perception of what technology could accomplish, preparing minds for the rapid electrification that would follow. Within decades, electricity would be everywhere, a transformation that began in earnest at the Chicago Fairgrounds in 1893. The ghost of that fair lives on in the electrified world around you tonight. The legacy of Tesla and Westinghouse, humming quietly in every powered device. The lights that keep darkness at bay, the power that runs your home, all trace back to those demonstrations that convinced the world alternating current was the future. As you rest in the glow of electric light, you are resting in Tesla's vision made ordinary through its very success. For centuries, humans had looked at Niagara Falls and seen raw power going to waste. Millions of gallons cascading endlessly downward in one of nature's most spectacular displays. The falls represented more potential energy than any other accessible site on the continent. Power that could transform industry, if only it could be captured. By the late 19th century, the dream of harnessing Niagara was becoming urgent, as America's growing industries demanded more electricity than existing sources could provide. Tesla had imagined powering the world from Niagara since his childhood, and now the technology existed to make that dream real. In 1890, an international commission was formed to choose a power system for Niagara, inviting proposals from engineers and companies around the world. The commission was chaired by Lord Kelvin, the famous British physicist, who initially favored direct current because of its established track record. But the distances involved made DC impractical. Buffalo, the nearest major city, was 20 miles away, too far for efficient DC transmission. Alternating current could send power that distance without significant losses, and, gradually, the Commission came to accept that Tesla's system was the only viable option. Westinghouse won the contract to build the generators at Niagara Falls, using designs based directly on Tesla's polyphase alternating current patents. The generators would be the largest ever built, each producing thousands of horsepower from the endless flow of water over the falls. The turbines were positioned at the base of specially constructed pits, water falling through tunnels to spin them before flowing away into the lower river. The engineering challenges were immense, but the potential rewards justified the unprecedented investment. Tesla visited the Niagara site during construction, seeing his childhood dream taking physical form. The vision he had held since boyhood in Croatia becoming concrete and steel. He had imagined this as a child, watching waterfalls near his home, wondering how their power could be captured and put to use. Now the mightiest waterfall in North America was being harnessed, its energy converted to electricity by machines designed in his imagination. It must have been a profound moment, seeing the abstract become real on such a magnificent scale. The first power reached Buffalo on November 16, 1896, alternating current traveling 20 miles through transmission lines to light the city. This was the longest distance electricity had ever been practically transmitted, proving once and for all that AC could do what DC could not. The power system worked exactly as Tesla had designed: generators, transformers, and transmission lines functioning as a unified system. The dream of the Budapest Park had become the reality of industrial America, energy flowing from falling water to distant cities. The success at Niagara attracted enormous attention from industry and the public, demonstrating that large-scale hydroelectric power was practical and economical. Other sites around the world could be developed using the same principles: rivers and waterfalls converted to electricity for cities and factories. The age of centralized power generation had begun, with Niagara as the model for installations that would follow. Within years, hydroelectric plants were operating on rivers across America and Europe, all based on the technology that Tesla had invented. The Niagara installation grew rapidly in the years after its initial success. More generators added as demand for electricity exceeded supply. Factories relocated to the Buffalo area to take advantage of abundant cheap power, creating an industrial boom that transformed the regional economy. Electrochemical industries like aluminum production required vast amounts of electricity, and Niagara could provide power at costs that made such industries viable. The falls that had been a tourist attraction became an industrial powerhouse, nature's spectacle converted to economic energy. Tesla's financial benefit from Niagara was limited by his earlier decision to tear up the royalty contract, the sacrifice that had saved the Westinghouse Company during the War of the Currents. Had he retained even a small royalty on his patents, the power from Niagara alone would have made him enormously wealthy. Instead, others profited from his inventions while he continued to struggle for funding, a pattern that would repeat throughout his life. His genius created wealth for society, but that wealth rarely flowed back to him personally. A statue of Tesla now stands at Niagara Falls, a belated recognition of his contribution, showing him looking at a model of his original AC motor design. The statue was erected in 1976, more than 30 years after his death, honoring the man who made the power plant possible. Visitors today can see the falls and the power station together, connecting the natural wonder with the technological achievement it enabled. Tesla would have appreciated the monument, vindication of his vision after decades of being overshadowed by Edison in public memory. The hydroelectric model pioneered at Niagara has been replicated thousands of times at rivers and waterfalls around the world, generating clean electricity. Dams from Hoover Dam to Three Gorges use alternating current technology. The polyphase systems that Tesla invented still standard more than a century later. Hydroelectricity remains one of the largest sources of renewable energy. Water falling through turbines to spin generators that trace directly back to Tesla. Every time you use electricity from a hydroelectric source, you are using power generated by his principles working at massive scale. The harnessing of Niagara represented more than just an engineering achievement. It symbolized humanity's ability to capture natural forces for civilization's benefit. The falls had thundered for thousands of years, power dissipating uselessly into the air. But now that energy could light cities and drive industry, this was the promise of electrical technology, converting the raw power of nature into forms that could serve human needs. Tesla had helped deliver on that promise, connecting the waterfall to the factory and the home through his polyphase system. As you rest tonight, some of the electricity around you may come from hydroelectric sources, water falling through turbines somewhere, generating the power that reaches your walls. This is Tesla's longest-lasting legacy, the infrastructure that converts nature's power to civilization's use. The hum of that electricity is the echo of Niagara, multiplied across thousands of installations worldwide. Let that hum be peaceful, the sound of Tesla's dream made real and working while you sleep. Before there were smartphones and Wi-Fi, before television and radio broadcasts, Tesla was experimenting with the wireless transmission of information across empty space. He understood that electromagnetic waves could carry signals without wires, and he demonstrated this principle years before radio became a practical technology. The history of radio is complicated by competing claims and patent disputes, but Tesla's contributions were fundamental to the technology that now connects the world. Tonight we explore his wireless experiments, the origins of the communication systems we now take for granted. Tesla began serious work on wireless transmission in the early 1890s, building on his high-frequency experiments with Tesla coils and resonant circuits. He understood that oscillating electrical currents would radiate electromagnetic waves, waves that could travel through space at the speed of light. By tuning both transmitter and receiver to the same frequency, signals could be sent selectively to intended recipients. These principles, which Tesla demonstrated publicly in 1893, are the foundation of all radio technology. In a famous lecture at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia in 1893, Tesla demonstrated wireless transmission of energy to power light bulbs across the stage. He used tuned circuits and high-frequency oscillators, showing that signals could be transmitted and received without any physical connection. The audience witnessed something unprecedented: communication through empty space using invisible electromagnetic waves. This demonstration predated Guglielmo Marconi's first radio experiments, establishing Tesla's priority in the development of wireless technology. Tesla's apparatus included tuned circuits that selected specific frequencies, the resonance circuits that are essential to all radio communication. Without tuning, receivers would pick up all frequencies at once, a jumble of signals that could not be separated or understood. Tesla's tuned circuits allowed a receiver to select one frequency, ignoring all others and extracting the intended signal from the noise. This selectivity is what makes radio practical, enabling multiple stations to share the electromagnetic spectrum without interference. Marconi is often credited with inventing radio because he was first to achieve practical, long-distance wireless communication. His famous transatlantic transmission in 1901 captured public imagination, sending a signal from England to Newfoundland across the ocean. But Marconi used components and principles that Tesla had patented earlier, including the tuned circuits that made selective reception possible. The patent situation was complex and contested for decades, with courts eventually ruling in Tesla's favor, though only after his death. In 1943, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Tesla's patents had priority over Marconi's, officially recognizing Tesla as the inventor of fundamental radio technology. The ruling came too late to benefit Tesla, who had died earlier that year, but it vindicated his claims that had been disputed for decades. Many textbooks still credit Marconi with inventing radio, a historical inaccuracy that persists despite the court ruling. Tesla's contribution has been gradually receiving more recognition as historians examine the evidence and acknowledge his priority. Beyond basic radio, Tesla demonstrated something even more remarkable. In 1898, a radio-controlled boat that he showed to the public at Madison Square Garden. He called it a teleautomaton, a machine that could be controlled from a distance. The first practical demonstration of remote control technology. The boat could be steered, started, and stopped by wireless signals, responding to commands sent through the air without any physical connection. Audiences were astonished, some suggesting there must be a trained monkey inside, unable to grasp that machines could be controlled by invisible waves. The teleautomaton was the ancestor of all remote-controlled devices, from toy cars to military drones to robotic spacecraft exploring other planets. Tesla immediately grasped the implications for warfare and industry, machines that could be controlled from safety while performing dangerous tasks. He proposed remote-controlled torpedoes and vehicles for military use, ideas that would not become practical until decades later. The drone warfare and robotic systems of today trace directly back to that demonstration in 1898. Tesla also envisioned what he called world telegraphy, a global system for wireless communication that sounds remarkably like the internet. He described a network of transmission stations around the world, allowing messages to be sent instantly between any 2 points on Earth. People would carry small receivers, he predicted, devices that would connect them to the global communication network wherever they went. This vision, articulated in the early 20th century, anticipated smartphones and wireless internet by nearly 100 years. The technology behind modern wireless communication evolved from principles Tesla established: tuned circuits, antenna design, high-frequency oscillation, and resonance. Every radio station, every cell tower, every Wi-Fi router uses technology that descends from Tesla's experiments and patents. The smartphone in your pocket, if you have one nearby, connects to the world through electromagnetic waves, just as Tesla envisioned. His dream of a connected world has been realized, though through commercial systems rather than the free access he had hoped for. Tesla's wireless dreams went beyond communication to include power transmission, sending electricity itself without wires to any point on Earth. This vision was more controversial and faces fundamental physical challenges, issues we will explore when we discuss the Wardenclyffe Tower in the next part. But the communication aspects of his wireless work were entirely practical, proven by the radio and wireless technologies that now surround us. Every time you connect to a wireless network or tune a radio, you are using technology that Tesla pioneered more than a century ago. The transformation of communication from wires to wireless is one of the great changes in human history, connecting people across oceans and continents instantaneously. News and information flow around the world in seconds, events in one country known everywhere almost as they happen. This connected world, for better and worse, exists because of wireless technology. Technology whose foundations Tesla laid in his laboratories. As you rest tonight, invisible waves carry signals through the air around you, the electromagnetic ocean that Tesla first learned to navigate. Tesla's grandest dream was to transmit electrical power without wires, sending energy through the Earth and atmosphere to power the world for free. He believed that the planet itself could serve as a conductor, carrying electrical signals from a few transmitting stations to receivers anywhere on Earth. This vision led him to build the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, New York, a facility intended to demonstrate wireless power transmission on a global scale. The story of Wardenclyffe is one of ambition, near success, and ultimately heartbreaking failure, a dream that died but still captivates imaginations today. Tesla had conducted preliminary wireless experiments in New York City and then Colorado Springs, the laboratory where he produced artificial lightning and claimed to receive signals from space. The Colorado experiments convinced him that his ideas were sound, that worldwide power transmission was possible with sufficient resources. He returned east, determined to build a full-scale demonstration facility, a station that would prove his concept and attract the investment needed for a global network. The project would require substantial funding, and Tesla turned to one of the wealthiest men in America. J.P. Morgan, the famous financier, agreed to provide $150,000, a substantial sum that Tesla believed would be enough to build the Wardenclyffe station. Tesla purchased land on Long Island and hired the architect Stanford White to design a facility that would include laboratories, workshops, and the transmission tower. The tower would be the most distinctive feature, a tall structure topped by a large dome designed to broadcast electrical energy into the atmosphere. Construction began in 1901, Tesla's vision finally taking physical form after years of planning. The Wardenclyffe Tower rose to about 187 feet, with a dome-shaped terminal structure at the top for transmitting energy. Below ground, Tesla planned to drive shafts deep into the Earth, creating a connection to the planet that would serve as the other electrode of his transmission system. The design was based on his belief that the Earth could conduct electricity, allowing power to be transmitted through the ground, as well as through the atmosphere. The full underground portion was never completed, as funding ran out before Tesla's plans could be fully realized. The problems began when Tesla revealed to Morgan the full scope of his ambitions, not just wireless communication, but wireless power transmission to the entire world. Morgan had invested, expecting a communication system that would compete with Marconi, a profitable venture with clear commercial applications. But free power for everyone was not a business model that would return Morgan's investment. And when Tesla asked for additional funding, Morgan refused. The financier reportedly asked how wireless power could be metered and sold, and Tesla's answer that it would be free did not satisfy the investors' expectations. Without additional funding, construction at Wardenclyffe stalled, the tower standing incomplete while Tesla desperately sought other backers. He approached other wealthy individuals and corporations, but no one would fund a project to give away free electricity with no revenue model. The tower became a white elephant, expensive to maintain and impossible to complete, a monument to ambition beyond what the financial world would support. Tesla's laboratory continued operating for some years, but the dream of worldwide wireless power transmission was effectively dead. The physics of wireless power transmission also faces fundamental challenges, issues that make Tesla's dream difficult even with modern technology. Electromagnetic energy spreads out as it travels from a source, becoming more diffuse and harder to capture at increasing distances. Efficient power transmission requires directed beams or guided waves, not the broadcast model that Tesla envisioned for his global system. Modern wireless charging for phones works over distances of inches, not the thousands of miles that Tesla hoped to achieve. Some researchers continue to explore wireless power transmission for specific applications, powering devices over short distances or beaming energy from satellites. These efforts have achieved limited success in controlled conditions, but nothing approaching Tesla's vision of free power broadcast to the world. The physical limitations may be fundamental rather than merely technological, barriers that no amount of engineering can overcome. Tesla's dream remains beautiful, but perhaps impossible, a vision that exceeded what physics allows. Of all Nikola Tesla's dreams, none was grander or more ambitious than his vision of wireless power. The idea that electricity could be transmitted through the Earth itself without any wires at all. He imagined a world where energy flowed freely to everyone, where ships and factories and homes drew power from the very air around them. This was not merely a technical project, but a philosophical mission. Tesla's belief that energy should be available to all humanity without the constraints of cables and meters. The Wardenclyffe Tower was meant to make this dream real, and its failure remains one of the great tragedies of technological history. The idea of wireless transmission had occupied Tesla's mind for years, growing from his experiments with high-frequency currents and resonance. He understood that electromagnetic waves could carry energy through space, and he believed the Earth itself could serve as a conductor for electrical power. If you could set up a resonant system between the Earth and the upper atmosphere, energy could be transmitted globally, available anywhere with the right receiver. This was the theory behind Wardenclyffe, a tower that would pump electrical energy into the planet and let anyone tap into it. Tesla chose a site in Shoreham on Long Island, about 60 miles from New York City, a remote location where he could build and experiment without interference. He acquired 200 acres of land in 1901 and began designing a facility that would include laboratories, power generation, and the Great Tower itself. The architect Stanford White, famous for designing Madison Square Garden, agreed to design the laboratory buildings, lending prestige to the ambitious project. Tesla saw Wardenclyffe as the beginning of a worldwide system, the first node in a network that would eventually span the globe. The tower itself was an extraordinary structure, rising 187 feet, topped with a large hemispherical dome made of copper and steel. This dome, 55 feet in diameter, was designed to radiate energy, to couple with the Earth and atmosphere in Tesla's resonant transmission scheme. Below the tower, shafts extended 120 feet into the ground, reaching toward the water table to ensure good electrical contact with the planet. Iron pipes radiated outward from these shafts, creating a network of conductors that would help inject current into the Earth. The financial backing for this enormous project came from J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker in America, who saw potential in Tesla's work. Morgan invested $150,000, a vast sum in 1901, expecting returns from wireless telegraphy that could compete with Marconi's growing system. But Tesla had larger ambitions than merely sending messages. He wanted to transmit power itself, and he may not have fully disclosed this to Morgan. The banker expected a profitable communications business, not a utopian scheme to give free energy to the world. As construction progressed, Tesla requested additional funding to expand the project, explaining that he needed more power and larger equipment than originally planned. Morgan was reluctant, seeing the costs mounting without clear commercial returns, and he became increasingly skeptical of Tesla's grandiose promises. When Marconi successfully transmitted a radio signal across the Atlantic in 1901, Morgan saw that wireless telegraphy was already solved by someone else. The business case for funding Tesla's more ambitious system became much harder to justify to the practical-minded financier. Tesla pleaded with Morgan for continued support, explaining his true vision, the wireless transmission of power that would revolutionize civilization. But Morgan was a businessman, not a philanthropist, and free energy for everyone was not a business model that interested him. If electricity could not be metered and sold, there was no profit to be made, no return on his investment. Morgan declined to provide additional funding, and other potential investors, seeing Morgan's withdrawal, also refused to back the project. The work at Wardenclyffe slowed and eventually stopped as money ran out, contractors unpaid, equipment unfinished, the great tower standing incomplete. Tesla tried desperately to find other backers, writing letters and making pleas, but the financial panic of 1907 made investors even more cautious about speculative projects. The laboratories fell into disrepair, and the dream of wireless power faded into an embarrassing reminder of overpromising. Tesla was forced to surrender the property to pay his debts, and the tower stood abandoned on Long Island, a monument to unfulfilled genius. The fundamental question is whether Tesla's wireless power transmission could have worked, or whether it was doomed by the physics of electromagnetic radiation. Energy broadcast through space spreads out in all directions, diminishing with the square of the distance from the source. By the time it reaches a receiver far away, most of the energy is lost, scattered across the vast sphere of expanding waves. This is why radio transmitters use relatively little power for communication, but transmitting useful amounts of energy would require enormous, impractical power levels. Tesla believed he had solved this problem through his understanding of resonance, the idea that the Earth and atmosphere could form a resonant cavity. If he could excite this cavity at its natural frequency, energy might be stored and transmitted efficiently, like sound in a whispering gallery. Modern physics suggests this scheme would not work as Tesla imagined. The energy losses in the Earth and atmosphere would be far too great. That Tesla's intuition about Earth resonances was not entirely wrong. The Schumann resonances he anticipated were later confirmed to exist. The Schumann resonances are electromagnetic oscillations in the cavity between Earth and ionosphere, excited by lightning strikes that occur thousands of times every day around the world. Tesla had correctly intuited that such resonances existed, even if his plans to exploit them for power transmission were impractical. This is the bittersweet nature of Tesla's Wardenclyffe dream. He was right about some of the physics, but wrong about the engineering. The vision of wireless power remains seductive, and modern researchers still explore limited forms of wireless energy transfer. In 1917, the Wardenclyffe Tower was demolished, dynamited and sold for scrap to help pay Tesla's debts. The explosion that brought down the tower destroyed the physical symbol of his grandest ambition forever. Tesla reportedly did not witness the demolition, perhaps unable to bear seeing his dream literally destroyed. The site eventually became a factory. The laboratories where Tesla had worked converted to more mundane industrial purposes. The failure of Wardenclyffe marked a turning point in Tesla's life and career, the moment when his greatest visions exceeded his ability to realize them. He would continue inventing and dreaming for another 25 years, but never again would he come so close to changing the world. The tragedy was not just personal, but civilizational. We will never know what might have emerged if Tesla had had unlimited resources. Perhaps nothing, perhaps disappointment, or perhaps something wonderful that we cannot imagine. Today, the Wardenclyffe site has been preserved as a future Tesla museum, purchased by supporters who raised funds to save it from development into condominiums. The laboratory building still stands, awaiting restoration, a physical connection to the inventor who dreamed so boldly there. Perhaps someday visitors will walk where Tesla worked and imagine the future he tried so desperately to create. Beyond the famous achievements that changed the world, Tesla created dozens of other inventions that are less well known but equally fascinating in their ingenuity. His mind ranged across every area of technology, from medicine to aviation, from mechanical engineering to environmental science. Many of these inventions were ahead of their time, concepts that would take decades to be developed by others, or that remain unexplored today. Tonight, we explore these forgotten corners of Tesla's imagination, the lesser-known creations of history's greatest inventor. Tesla was among the very first to experiment with X-rays, producing images of the human body using high-frequency electrical discharges. Just weeks after Wilhelm Röntgen announced his discovery of X-rays in 1895, Tesla was already producing his own radiographs, using equipment he had built for other purposes. He photographed the bones in his own hand and sent images to Röntgen, receiving a congratulatory letter from the German physicist in return. Tesla understood both the medical potential and the dangers of X-rays, warning about harmful effects that other researchers initially dismissed. In one experiment, Tesla attempted to photograph a colleague's skull for over an hour, and the man later reported severe headaches and eye irritation. Tesla connected these symptoms to the X-ray exposure, becoming one of the first to recognize radiation damage to living tissue. He stopped working with the technology personally after experiencing pain in his own eyes, but his early contributions to X-ray imaging are largely forgotten today. Mark Twain, a close friend, was among the subjects Tesla photographed, a celebrity endorsement of the strange new technology. The Tesla turbine represents a completely different approach to extracting power from fluids, a bladeless design that uses smooth discs instead of conventional blades. Traditional turbines have complex blade shapes that are expensive to manufacture, while Tesla's design uses simple flat discs stacked closely together. The fluid flows between the discs, transferring energy through friction and adhesion, a principle Tesla called boundary layer effects. The turbine is remarkably simple, with few moving parts, and is capable of operating at very high speeds and temperatures. Despite its elegance, the Tesla turbine never achieved widespread commercial adoption, though the reasons are debated by engineers and Tesla enthusiasts. The efficiency proved difficult to scale up to large industrial sizes, and the disc materials available in Tesla's time could not handle the extreme speeds. Modern materials science might make the design more practical, and some researchers are revisiting the Tesla turbine for applications in geothermal and solar power. The beautiful simplicity of the design continues to attract inventors who see potential that mainstream engineering has overlooked. Tesla also designed a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, decades before helicopters became practical flying machines. His concept used a propeller that could transition from vertical to horizontal orientation, allowing the craft to take off like a helicopter and fly forward like a conventional airplane. He received patents for this design in 1921 and 28, long before such concepts were realized in actual aircraft. The tilt-rotor aircraft of today, like the V-22 Osprey, embody the principle Tesla described nearly a century earlier. The story of Tesla's earthquake machine is one of the most colorful legends, involving a small mechanical oscillator that supposedly shook buildings across Manhattan. According to Tesla and the newspapers of the time, he attached an oscillator to an iron pillar in his laboratory on East Houston Street, and the vibrations traveled through the ground, shaking nearby buildings. Police allegedly arrived to find Tesla smashing the device with a sledgehammer, stopping the resonance before it could cause real damage. The story is probably exaggerated, but it illustrates Tesla's understanding of mechanical resonance and vibration. The oscillator in question was a steam-powered mechanical device designed to produce precisely controlled vibrations for various applications. Tesla believed that by matching the natural frequency of any structure, he could amplify tiny vibrations into destructive forces. This principle is scientifically sound, as engineers know from bridge collapses and other failures, but the idea of destroying buildings with a handheld device is almost certainly fantasy. What Tesla actually achieved was likely less dramatic, annoying his neighbors rather than threatening to demolish the city. Tesla experimented extensively with what he called radiant energy, high-frequency phenomena that included artificial ball lightning and plasma discharges. Ball lightning is a rare natural phenomenon, glowing spheres that appear during thunderstorms, and Tesla claimed to have created similar effects in his laboratory. He described luminous spheres floating through the air, lasting several seconds, effects that modern physics still struggles to explain or reproduce reliably. Whether Tesla truly created ball lightning or merely similar-looking electrical effects remains a subject of debate among researchers. Ozone generation was another area of Tesla's environmental thinking. Decades before ozone became a topic of public concern, he built generators that produced ozone from air using electrical discharges, understanding that ozone had sterilizing properties useful for water treatment. Today, ozone generators based on similar principles are used worldwide for water purification and air treatment in various applications. Tesla saw electricity as a tool for improving public health, an attitude that connected his technical work to humanity goals. Among his more practical inventions was an improved speedometer for automobiles, patented in 1916 and later licensed for use in cars. The device measured vehicle speed using a rotating magnetic assembly, a principle still used in some speedometer designs today. Tesla received payment for this patent, one of the few inventions that provided him reliable income in his later years. It is a small reminder that not all his work was grandiose. Sometimes he invented practical devices that simply made life better. Tesla also designed ornamental fountains and other decorative applications of electricity, seeing beauty as an important dimension of technological progress. He created displays of colored light using phosphorescent tubes, predecessors of modern neon signs and decorative lighting. Some of these displays were exhibited at world's fairs and electrical exhibitions, impressing the public with the aesthetic possibilities of electrical technology. Tesla understood that technology must appeal to the heart as well as the mind, that beauty was not separate from, but integral to progress. The breadth of Tesla's inventive work is almost impossible to catalogue fully, spanning power generation, lighting, radio, mechanical engineering, aviation, and more across thousands of pages of notes. Many of his ideas were never developed beyond sketches and descriptions, waiting for future generations to recognize their potential. Some were impractical, some were ahead of their time, and some may contain insights we have not yet understood. The forgotten inventions remind us that Tesla's mind never rested, always seeing possibilities that others could not imagine. The final decades of Nikola Tesla's life present a portrait of faded glory, a genius who had changed the world, now living in obscurity and near poverty. The man who had dined with the elite of New York society, who had been celebrated at world's fairs and in the finest magazines, now lived alone in hotel rooms, his great projects behind him. But even in decline, Tesla remained a figure of fascination, making claims that still generate controversy and speculation today. After the failure of Wardenclyffe, Tesla continued to work and invent, but without the resources or recognition that his earlier career had enjoyed. He moved from hotel to hotel in New York City, often leaving behind unpaid bills as he moved to the next residence, the Waldorf Astoria, then the Hotel Marguerite, then others, a declining trajectory of addresses that reflected his financial struggles. Finally, in 1933, he settled at the Hotel New Yorker, where he would live in 2 small rooms until his death a decade later. The once elegant inventor, who had dressed impeccably and moved in high society, now appeared gaunt and eccentric to those who encountered him. He was still over 6 feet tall, thin and angular, with deep-set eyes that suggested the intensity of his inner life. His habits had become rigid and peculiar. He required exactly 18 napkins at dinner, counted his steps, and avoided handshakes. These behaviors, which might today suggest obsessive-compulsive disorder, made him seem increasingly strange to a world that had once celebrated him. One of his daily rituals during these years was feeding the pigeons in Bryant Park, spending hours communing with the birds that gathered around him. Tesla developed a particular attachment to one white pigeon, describing her in almost romantic terms in his later writings. He claimed the bird visited him in his hotel room, and that her death left him feeling that his life's work was complete. Whether this attachment was eccentricity, loneliness, or something deeper, it reveals the isolation of his final years. Despite his diminished circumstances, Tesla continued to make claims about new inventions, some plausible and some that strained credulity. He announced that he had developed a death ray, a particle beam weapon, capable of destroying 10,000 airplanes at a distance of 250 miles. This weapon, he said, would make war impossible because any nation possessing it would be invulnerable to attack. He offered this technology to various governments, including the United States, but none accepted his proposals seriously enough to fund development. The death ray, which Tesla called Teleforce, was supposedly based on projecting a beam of accelerated particles through the air. Modern physics understands that such beams face enormous practical challenges. Particles scatter and lose energy as they travel through atmosphere. Whether Tesla had solved these problems, exaggerated his results, or simply imagined capabilities that did not exist, is impossible to know from the surviving records of his work. The claims contributed to his reputation for grandiosity, but also sparked decades of speculation about secret weapons research. Tesla also claimed to have developed a method for photographing thoughts, projecting images from the mind onto a screen. He described experiments where images he was visualizing supposedly appeared on a photographic plate in his laboratory. This claim is almost certainly impossible according to our understanding of physics, yet Tesla described it with the same confidence he used for his real inventions. The boundary between Tesla's genuine insights and his wishful thinking became increasingly blurred in his final decades. His relationship with the press was complicated during these years, as newspapers were happy to print sensational claims that generated attention. Tesla held annual birthday press conferences that were widely covered, announcing new inventions and making predictions about future technology. Some of these predictions were remarkably accurate, including wireless pocket devices, while others were fanciful or impossible. The press treated him as a character, a combination of genius and eccentric that made good copy regardless of accuracy. When Tesla died on January 7, 1943, at the age of 86, his body was found by a hotel maid who had ignored his Do Not Disturb sign. He had been living on a small pension and occasional payments from the Yugoslav government, which honored him as one of their greatest sons, despite his American citizenship. The coroner listed the cause of death as coronary thrombosis, the heart finally failing after decades of work and worry. He died alone, as he had lived for many years, surrounded only by his papers and his memories. What happened next has fueled conspiracy theories ever since. The FBI allegedly seized Tesla's belongings before his family or estate could claim them. The alien property custodian took control of his papers because Tesla had never become a naturalized citizen and was technically a foreign national. The papers were eventually examined by scientists including John G. Trump, uncle of the future president, who declared them to contain nothing of significant military value. But doubts persisted about whether everything was returned and what secrets might have been hidden or classified. The mystery of Tesla's papers has become a cottage industry of speculation, with claims that his death ray, free energy devices, and other technologies were suppressed. Some believe the government built weapons based on his work. Others that private interests hid technologies that would have disrupted their businesses. There is no credible evidence for these claims, but the absence of evidence has never stopped conspiracy theories from flourishing. Tesla himself, with his grandiose late-life claims, inadvertently fed these speculations. The truth is probably more mundane, but still remarkable. Tesla's papers contain decades of work by one of history's most creative minds. Much of this material has been archived and studied by researchers, revealing the evolution of his thinking across countless notebooks and drawings. There are no death rays or free energy machines in the archives, but there is something more valuable in a sense: the record of how genius actually works. The notes show a mind constantly exploring, constantly imagining, a process that produced both triumphs and dead ends. In the years after his death, Tesla's reputation underwent a remarkable transformation, from forgotten eccentric to rediscovered genius. The IEEE established the Tesla Award for contributions to power generation, and in 1960, the International Unit of Magnetic Flux Density was named the Tesla. His name now appears on electric cars, rock bands, and countless technologies, a cultural presence that exceeds even his scientific legacy. The man who died in poverty and obscurity became an icon of inventive genius for future generations. The mysteries of Tesla's life invite endless speculation, but perhaps the deepest mystery is simply the nature of his extraordinary mind. We have traveled together through the life and inventions of Nikola Tesla, from his birth during a lightning storm to his lonely death in a New York hotel room. We have seen his triumphs, the alternating current system and the induction motor, inventions that power virtually everything in our modern world. We have witnessed his struggles, the loss of Wardenclyffe and the decline of his later years, the tragedy of a genius who could not turn all his visions into reality. Now, as our journey concludes, let us reflect on what Tesla means to us tonight. The most immediate part of Tesla's legacy surrounds you at this very moment: the electricity that powers the lights, the devices, the comfortable life you enjoy. Every wall outlet in your home connects back to Tesla's polyphase system, the alternating current that flows through wires from power plants to your door. Every electric motor in your refrigerator, your fan, your washing machine descends from the induction motor Tesla invented in his 20s. You are living inside Tesla's creation, surrounded by technology that began in his extraordinary mind. The power plant that generates your electricity probably uses turbines, spinning in magnetic fields according to principles Tesla perfected. Whether that power comes from coal, nuclear, hydro, or wind, it becomes alternating current flowing through a grid Tesla's vision made possible. The transformers that step voltage up for transmission and down for home use work on electromagnetic principles Tesla understood and applied. From generation to transmission to the outlet in your wall, the system is essentially what Tesla designed over a century ago. Beyond the power grid, Tesla's work on radio and wireless communication laid foundations for the connected world we take for granted today. Every time you use a wireless device, a phone, a laptop, a smart speaker, you are using technology that grew from seeds Tesla planted. The remote control that operates your television began with Tesla's radio-controlled boat, demonstrated in 1898. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular networks, all are descendants of the wireless vision Tesla pursued throughout his life. The Tesla coil, that spectacular generator of artificial lightning, found applications he could not have predicted in medical equipment and electronics. High-frequency currents are used in surgery and therapeutic devices, and Tesla coils help start the plasma in some television screens. The resonance principles he explored appear throughout modern technology, from radio tuning to magnetic resonance imaging machines. His understanding of electrical oscillation became a foundation of 20th century electronics. The Tesla's legacy is not only in specific inventions, it is in the approach to innovation that his life exemplified. He showed that one person with vision and determination could change the world, that the impossible becomes possible when someone truly commits to making it real. His mental visualization technique, designing complete machines in imagination before building, anticipated computer-aided design by nearly a century. His insistence on understanding fundamental principles before building created inventions that were elegant as well as functional. There is something comforting about knowing that the technology around you was conceived by a human mind not so different from your own. Tesla was born in a small village, faced setbacks and disappointments, and struggled with the same human limitations we all experience. Yet from that ordinary beginning, he created extraordinary things, proving that genius is not a different species, but a different application of human potential. If Tesla could imagine the 20th century before it arrived, what might the imaginative minds of today create for tomorrow? The electricity humming in the walls tonight is a kind of lullaby from Tesla, a quiet presence that makes your rest possible. Your home is warm or cool because electric motors move air. Your food stays fresh because a compressor runs in your refrigerator. These are gifts from a man who died 80 years ago, still serving you, still making your life better. There is something almost tender about this connection. A stranger from another century, caring for you through his inventions. Consider the lights that may still be on as you rest, the soft glow that keeps darkness at bay. Tesla worked on lighting throughout his career, creating phosphorescent bulbs, neon tubes, and lighting systems that preceded what we use today. He understood that light was not merely practical, but emotional. That how we illuminate our spaces affects how we feel. The gentle light in your room tonight carries forward a tradition of electrical illumination that Tesla helped create. The machines around you are quiet servants, working without complaint. Motors and compressors and fans doing their jobs in near silence. This reliability was part of Tesla's vision too, machines that would be simple enough to run for years without attention. The induction motor has no brushes to wear out, no commutator to service. It simply runs using the rotating magnetic field Tesla discovered as a young man. Billions of these motors operate around the world right now. A quiet army of servants created by one inventor's insight. Tesla dreamed of a world where energy was abundant and freely available, where technology served humanity rather than enriching only the few. This dream was not fully realized, perhaps could not be realized, but the aspiration behind it remains worth honoring. He wanted to give, not to take, to create value for everyone rather than extract value for himself. This generosity of spirit, whatever his flaws, makes Tesla an inspiring figure. A reminder that invention can be an act of love for humanity. The man himself was complicated, brilliant, but also troubled, capable of great insight and also of grandiose claims that exceeded reality. He could be warm with friends and cold with rivals, generous with his ideas, but also stubborn about his convictions. He died alone but not unloved, remembered by the few friends who survived him and the many admirers who came after. His life was not entirely happy, but it was meaningful, devoted to creation rather than destruction, to giving rather than taking. As the night deepens and your body relaxes towards sleep, let the hum of electricity be a reminder of Tesla's gift. The power that flows through your walls came from his imagination, transformed through decades of engineering but originating in that singular mind. You are connected to him through every light switch and outlet, through every motor and every wireless signal in your home. Tesla's work surrounds you and serves you, a century-old blessing from an inventor who never knew you, but whose work knows you intimately. The mysteries of Tesla's life, the things he claimed but could not prove, can rest now too, unanswered but not troubling, in the peaceful dark. Whether he really invented a death ray or photographed thoughts matters less than the things he definitely achieved, the proven gifts he left behind. Let the speculation quiet itself. Let the questions wait for another time when sleep is not calling. What matters tonight is that his real work is real, and it is serving you as you drift toward rest. Think for a moment of the power grid as a living system, electricity flowing through wires like blood through veins, reaching everywhere. Tesla is present in that flow, his ideas made physical in copper and transformers. Every electron that enters your home travels through systems he designed, following principles he discovered. In a very real sense, Tesla's mind touches you tonight, through the technology that makes your comfortable rest possible. The world Tesla imagined has largely come to pass. A world electrified and connected, powered by the alternating current he championed. The wireless communication he pioneered now links billions of people, conversations and information flowing invisibly through the air. He would recognize the outlines of our world, even if the details would astonish him with their advancement. We are living in the future he helped create, inhabitants of a world he saw more clearly than his contemporaries. And now that future, which was once his dream, is your present moment, a quiet night in an electrically powered world. The machines are humming softly, the lights are dim, and you are resting in a comfort that Tesla's work made possible. There is nothing more to analyze tonight, nothing to figure out or remember. Just the peaceful awareness that you are held by technology, created by minds who wanted to make life better for people they would never meet. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Tesla's inventions and life, for letting his story accompany you toward rest. His work continues while you sleep, the motors running, the grid flowing, the wireless signals filling the air. You can let go now and trust these systems to keep working, to keep serving you through the night, as they have served humanity for over a century. From all of us here at the Drowsy Astronaut, we wish you a peaceful night, wrapped in the gifts that Tesla gave. May the quiet hum of electricity be your lullaby tonight, a reminder that genius can be generous, that invention can be an act of care. May you wake refreshed, still surrounded by Tesla's creations, still benefiting from a mind that imagined the future and made it real. The current flows quietly through the wires in your walls, alternating 60 times per second, just as Tesla designed. The motors are resting or running as needed, doing their work without demanding your attention. Everything is working as it should, and you can let go now into sleep. Good night, and may the inventor's spirit of wonder and creation touch your dreams with visions of what might yet be possible. The future is still unwritten, and tomorrow you will wake to another day in the world Tesla helped build. Sleep well, surrounded by the quiet legacy of a man who gave the world its power. Good night from the Drowsy Astronaut.